Yes, thank you again, Sean, for inviting me to be on here. I'm excited to talk to you guys about Ashtabula County's approach to the upcoming BDSR grant. So it's 71 degrees today in Northeast Ohio. Fall colors are in full swing, so I'm only going to spend about 10 minutes on this, and then I'm going to be heading out after this webinar. Just enjoy the weather. So just to jump right into this, I have 4 steps that I've outlined. I want to present to you guys. The first step is, no surprise, identify properties. So we're starting by collaborating with all of our local jurisdictions. And by doing so, we're hoping to spread a pretty wide net and get full participation around the county. So what I prepared was a quick 1-pager that's just a summary of the program that I've been distributing to each jurisdiction. I've been going to council meetings and I've been going to trustees meetings. I've also been doing some site visits, which I'm trying to schedule more of. The idea is to do a ride along, just because I think that's just the most effective way to get out there and be boots on the ground approach to it. But while we're out there, we also need to be building our inventory. And to facilitate with that, or to assist us with that, we created a mobile-based, what we call the blight survey. So I'm going to actually shift gears here and show you what that looks like. First, let me show you the 1-pager that I made. Just again, quick and dirty overview of the grant. Biggest thing here is this QR code. So the idea is for each local jurisdiction to be able to just scan this QR code and have this tool readily available, which I'm going to show you now. So this is what it looks like. So again, this is a mobile-based survey, also works on tablets or desktops. I provided just a brief background on the type of properties that we're looking for, what we define as being blighted structures. I also referenced the Ohio Revised Code to mention specifically what would qualify as an abandoned structure. I designed the survey to mimic the requirements of the grant application. So this is just some contact information for the representative from that jurisdiction to provide to us, what type of jurisdiction that they're located in, and then property specific information, parcel number, address, type of property, legal access, exterior photos. If you're using a phone, you would hit this button right here and it would use your camera. So you can take up to 10 pictures while you're out in the field. Or if you're using it from a desktop, you can just drag and drop. Also have a space for interior photos and another space for documentation. You can also type in a quick note here, this, and then hit submit. The reason why we set up this survey like this is because all of this data then goes into a GIS database, which I will come back to in a second here. Let me go back to the slide deck. So the second step that we do as we're building our inventory is evaluate eligibility. So we're going to start by looking at basic information, making sure that we have the correct address, parcel number, look at the land use and zoning. Then we're going to start looking at documentation. Do we have the blight certification, right? Do we have that resolution from trustees, township trustees, or from, council or the county commissioners, something like that? Do we have an inspection, a recent inspection from the health department, or do we have a court order in case of a public nuisance? Then we'll look at ownership and photos. So we'll have, make sure that we have a copy of the deed, the most recent deed, and then date stamp pictures, which again comes right from that survey. And then lastly, legal authority. If we don't have legal authority, we have to be realistic with the timeline of if we can accomplish that before the grant deadline. I'm going to jump back to the survey here. So once a user submits this, I want to show you what it looks like on my end. So here, and I should have said that this tool was made with ArcGIS Survey 123. I was able to get access to this just by working with our county GIS department. If you guys have not done so already, I would highly encourage you to work with either your local GIS department, whether that's on a city level or a county level. They're a tremendous resource. I got this at a very, very low cost. So yeah, highly encourage that. And I hope that if you guys have any questions after this presentation ends, please feel free to contact me. I'd be happy to work with you and you guys. So anyway, this view right here is just a quick summary of the type of data that we're receiving. This is helpful for a snapshot or a breakdown. So here thus far, this is what we have: 15 residential properties, 1 commercial. Scroll down, see what our legal access looks like. See the photos that were submitted to us. I can also jump over to this tab here and look at the data that was submitted. Oh, looked like we had some data entry there, right there. That's okay, that can be fixed. Looks like there's another data entry here. Usually this happens if somebody puts in the wrong address, geocoder, but that can be fixed very quickly here. Looks like they accidentally put this in Washington, D.C. So I'm just going to fix that right now. Okay. So, and as you can see here, I can quickly look at the info that was submitted to us. Take a look at the picture. For those of you who don't like working in this type of web interface, I can also download all of this data into an Excel spreadsheet. I can also put it into a GIS supported file and share that with my GIS department as well for analysis. Okay, back to my slide deck. Our third step is, once we've evaluated eligible projects, we then start to prioritize them. We start by prioritizing all the properties that we own or that are government owned. Then we'll look at nuisance abatements, and then we'll look at voluntary demo agreements. And the way we structure our voluntary demo agreements are, we basically get permission for 365 days to enter onto the property to carry out the demolition. We usually set a not to exceed limit of $20,000, and the owner is not responsible for any of the demolition charges, and we also agree not to report any liens on the property. I'm going to jump back here and just give you guys a good candidate, the one that we just got. So I believe it is here, 518 Madison. So the city of Conneaut submitted this to me with pictures as well as all of the relevant documentation that I need to include in the demo grant. So I have a fire report here. I have, just click on that. So resolution right here. So, and again, the benefits of this tool is that it just streamlines data collection. That way I'm not fumbling through a bunch of different emails, or people aren't sending me things in the mail. I can just have everything consolidated right here. And then I'm going to jump back to slide deck for our fourth step, which is administering the grant. So we have set up with our 3 cities in the county, we have MOUs in place where they act as our agent to carry out all demolition activities for demos that are occurring within their boundaries. We pay them $800 flat fee per property, which we then claim out of our, or that is counts as an eligible expense out of the grant. In terms of tracking the demolition, to monitor its progress, we use a GIS operations dashboard. Jump back to that here. So what I did was I went back and looked at the data, or all of our demos beginning of our prior demolition grant. So this is what it looked like. As you can see, these are all of our demos as part of our grant. We had budget information in here as well, a breakdown by property. And if you were to zoom in, click on any property, you have all the information that you need here pertaining to the demo, as well as tracking its status. and submitting pictures, getting budget information. And this is just a great way to share with our stakeholders and the land bank board, so they have all this information right at their fingertips, so they know exactly what's going on. All of our file management is done in an Access database, so we'll use all of our post-demo reporting, keep that all located there. So again, everything's just in one place. And probably goes without being said that this Access database is also tied to our GIS database. So again, everything is in one place. And the last thing is time tracking. So this is something that we're being more cognizant of this time around. After being on that webinar last week with the state, they said they want pay stubs and hourly rates for admin costs. So we're going to be using QuickBooks Online. We're going to be creating a project in there to track all of our internal time spent administrating this grant. And that is all I have. So I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions. This is my contact information. Please feel free to email me or call me. I'd be happy to speak with you guys, especially any technical assistance with GIS team or GIS department. That's it.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, thank you.
Next up, we'll hear from Adam Stalder with the Cuyahoga County Land Bank.
Hi, everyone. I am kind of the new kid on the block here. I've been with Cuyahoga County Land Bank now for about 3 months. So what I'm going to share is based on my understanding and how Cuyahoga County has done this in the past and how we're looking at this new round of funding. And really, this is our strategy for identifying and prioritizing demolitions. Can you see my screen? Just making sure.
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Now I have to figure out how to advance. There we go. So first and foremost, the mission of the Cuyahoga Land Bank is to strategically acquire properties, return them to productive use, reduce blight, increase property value, support community community goals, and improve the quality of life for our county residents. So whatever we do, we're making sure that we're achieving that mission, which will come up a little bit later. So we break ODOD into essentially 2 project types. There are our internal demolitions completed by our staff using our contractors. We really control the whole process. And then subrecipients. So these are where the Cuyahoga Land Bank is acting as a pass-through of funds. Within Cuyahoga, within our internal projects, there are 3 really different types of projects. There are forfeitures, so state forfeitures. There are nuisance abatements, which I'll talk about a little bit, and other demolitions that we do on behalf of partners. And then subrecipients, for this round at least, there are really 2 types. There are nuisance abatements and special projects. So with our internal demolitions, forfeitures are properties that have been forfeited to the state. I'm not sure how it works in more rural counties, but in Cuyahoga County, we have quite a few properties that have been forfeited to the state, which means they went to sheriff's sale twice. Nobody picked them up, and so they're forfeited, and they're easy for us to acquire. Mostly they're in poor condition. If nobody bid on them twice, they're usually pretty rough. So there are challenges to these types of properties. It's a moving target. There are always properties that are being forfeited that keep adding to the universe of forfeitures. And every once in a while, the county will do a sale so that some of those forfeitures get purchased. occupancy. So just like any forfeiture sale, there could be somebody living in the property, so we need to make sure that that's not the case. There are also multiple property types. They're not just residential houses, they're industrial, commercial properties. They can be purchased by others. So every once in a while, the county will have a sale of forfeitures. And so we have to make sure that we're not applying for the demolition of a property that we can't have access to. They also can be difficult to access for assessments. Our guys are pretty good about getting into these houses, so or these properties. So it's not really that big of a challenge. However, it can be, especially since there are no keys. So the process that we have for identifying and applying for our forfeitures, we establish a universe of properties. We assess all properties that have been forfeited to the state. We then take that list and we scrub it, and I'll explain that on the next slide. Then we gather our material for the application. We apply. We acquire the buildings. Once we apply, we get funded. We acquire buildings on a rolling properties on a rolling basis. So we don't take all 300, 400, 500, however many there are. We don't take them into our inventory right away. We make sure that the county doesn't sell them, but then we do 5, 10, 15 at a time. We transfer them to our inventory, demolish them, and then move on to the next 15 or so. Then we demolish, and then we transfer the vacant land. We don't hold on to it unless it's for a special project of ours. So we'll either transfer it to the city's land bank, which is a more passive land bank, or we will transfer it to a neighbor or in any other entity that is interested. So I said that we scrubbed this list. So the last list that I saw was about 800 properties were on forfeiture. So how do we do that? So we look at the full universe. So it's a big number of properties. It's a lot. So we take out any occupied structure. So the forfeiture universe is getting a little smaller here. If a property is in good condition and we don't want to demolish it, we may remove it from our demolition universe, add it to our program side of the organization, who will facilitate a rehabilitation. Landmark status. If it's in a landmarks district, we're not going to take it on unless it's unless we absolutely need to. But the process is difficult. Brownfield. So if it's a commercial property, is there a potential that it's a brownfield? Do we have the ability to prove that it's not a brownfield for ODOT's purposes? We do this a lot through not through full phase 1 assessments, but we have a consulting firm that does desk reviews for us, which means that they do all the background research that goes into a phase 1 environmental assessment. So they'd go through the history of the property and make sure that that there aren't any red flags. And then they determine that it is unlikely that it's a brownfield and that further environmental assessments aren't needed. And ODOT accepts that. And then other attributes. So is it a vacant lot? If it's a vacant lot, then we will pull it from forfeiture, but we're going to transfer it directly to the city land bank or to another, usually it's to a municipal land bank. Or is it a townhome? We can't demolish the middle unit of a townhome complex. So we throw those out and wait for all of the units to be accessible. So as you can see, the forfeiture universe goes from 800 to 300. We usually cut it in half through this scrubbing process. The next type of properties are nuisance abatements. And this is when the city or a municipality who has police powers, they can condemn these properties and take action to abate the nuisance, so demolish it. They are privately owned properties, so we don't own them, the city doesn't own them, but the municipality, which would typically demolish the properties, they may have limited capacity to do that. So they enter into an agreement with us where the Cuyahoga Land Bank acts as their agent to demolish the property. Last round, we did this with the city of Cleveland, but the city of Cleveland has recently gained a lot of capacity and brought these nuisance abatements back in-house. I'll talk about that in a second. But for like the city of East Cleveland, which doesn't really have the capacity to do this, we will be handling this on their part. So the challenge really is the legal process. We're tearing down somebody else's house. So we need to make sure that all of our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted. We become very involved to make sure that property owners are properly serviced. Our attorney works closely with any municipality that's not the city of Cleveland to make sure that that happens. The city of Cleveland has a pretty good legal process, so we rely on them to make sure that things are done correctly. Another challenge are ownership changes. So if the property transfers during this process, we in Cleveland don't have a point of sale inspection, so properties can just get sold at any time and in any condition. So if there is a new owner, that owner has not been properly serviced, so we cannot move forward with the demolition. And then it's a confusing process for the community. So if there's a neighbor that's complaining about a house that's next to them, it's a nuisance abatement. And we show up, we start doing all the assessments, we start abatement, and then all of a sudden we have to stop because the property sells. We get the calls from the neighbor, and then we pass the neighbor on to the city to be like, listen, you got to talk to the city about this. Or if the owner just shows up out of the blue and says, hey, what are you doing to my house? We have to connect them with the city because we don't have the police powers. We're demolishing these as an agent for the municipality. So this process, everything in blue is what the city has to do, and everything in green is what the county land bank needs to do. So the city assesses the properties, they declare the nuisance, they really create the priority list for us. And then we both gather the material for the application, especially with suburban projects. We make sure that all of the material is there. We make sure that everything is good to go. Then, of course, we apply for the funding. And then the city needs to serve notices. They need to make sure that everything's in good shape. And then they issue a notice to proceed to Cuyahoga Land Bank. After that, we double check. We make sure that they've properly serviced the owners. So we go through their files and make sure that everything's set. Then we demolish, and then we file a lien against the property. The third type of internal project that we have are demolitions that we do on behalf of partners. So these are partner-owned properties. Access is easier. It's very easy because the partner who's asking us to demolish it owns it and can just say, hey, we want you to demolish it. The partner has limited capacity to demolish it, or else they might take it on themselves. These partners include municipalities, nonprofits, and even private owners sometimes. The challenges are really about mission alignment. We want to make sure that these funds are being deployed equitably and in alignment with our mission, which I started this presentation with. So we need to make sure that we are allocating this limited funding appropriately. We need to make sure that we're prioritizing to make sure that the community needs are being met. the process for this, once again, blue is the partner and green is the land bank. The partner requests our assistance. They provide access. We both gather material for the application. Mostly it falls on the partner, but we need to create agreements and everything. We apply for funding. And then once the project is funded, the partner will issue a notice to proceed to us, and then we demolish it. So those were our internal types of projects. We also have subrecipients. So these are where we're just acting as a pass-through of these funds. All of our subrecipients apply for funding through our online portal, which feel free to check it out. It's cuyahogalandbank.org/ODOD. That takes you directly to the portal. Please don't fill it out unless you own a property in Cuyahoga County, because then I have to go through and filter out the fake ones. So there are really two types of these subrecipient properties. One is nuisance abatements, and this is new to us this year because, as I said, the city of Cleveland increased their capacity to handle their own nuisance abatements. So last time we handled them for them. This year, this round, they'll be doing them themselves. Some challenges I foresee going into this are timely reporting and then substitutions. We've faced a lot of substitutions this current round, the first round of ODOD demo funds. We faced a lot of substitutions because a lot of demos couldn't proceed because the property sold or the owner pulled permits and is fixing it up. As with any other land bank in any other city, the goal is really to have a good housing stock. So if an owner shows up and pulls permits and starts working on the house, that's great. We should pull it. So we did have quite a few substitutions the last round. So we anticipate that in the future. And then the second type are really special projects. So these are subrecipients who have the capacity to handle the demolition. They have the match funds. They just need the land bank to act as a pass-through. The challenges here are prioritization. So making sure that these funds are being allocated equitably in the county, as well as timely reporting, making sure that our subrecipients are getting us the information we need to keep ODOD happy. So the process is very simple. Everything is done up to the application by the subrecipient. We just apply using their information, and then the partner demolishes and does all of the reporting so that we can report back to ODOD. So I created this chart, and I'm happy to share this presentation afterwards, but really what I did here was take the different types of demolitions that I just discussed. So the internal and then the subrecipients down the left side of the table. And then across the top are kind of these bigger buckets of responsibility. So identifying the project, creating the budget, the scope, compiling documents, match, which some people may be interested in, who's providing the match. Obviously, the application submission and reporting ultimately falls under the land bank because we are the lead entity for the county. And then under implementation, so who's actually managing this project, who's demolishing it, and who's creating all of the reports that need to go into the submission. You'll see forfeitures, really that's all on the land bank. So these are our bread and butter properties. These are the ones that we're doing. These are our projects. Nuisance abatement, we really need the help of the city to, we don't really need the help of the city. The city is the only entity that can, that has the police power to condemn and declare these things of nuisance. There is a lot of partnership there. And on behalf of our, if we're demolishing a property on behalf of a partner, then that also requires a deep partnership to make sure that everything's moving along. Subrecipients, everything falls on the partner except for the application and the reporting submission. And then finally, our funding priority. So you may ask, how does Cuyahoga County prioritize these projects? Well, we start with our forfeitures. These are our properties. We have easy access to them. We can take them on quickly and efficiently. These our staff are the ones hiring all the consultants to survey, abate, clean out, and then eventually demolish and fill the site or prep the site. So these are our number one priority. Our second priority are nuisance abatements that we are doing on behalf of a partner. So if we are the agent for a municipality, then these would be second priority. And then third would be projects that we're doing on behalf of other partners. Then we get into subrecipients. So municipalities will have the top priority, and then other partners. So nonprofits, private entities would be the lowest priority. Even though we do care about their projects, we know there are limited funds. So that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions. That's my email at the bottom. And yeah, hope you found it useful.
Thanks, Adam.